What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen? There was this old guy, Frank, who worked nights at our grocery store. Super quiet dude, maybe 60-something. Always wore the same faded blue jacket. He'd been there like 15 years and had this routine down to a science. Every night at 10:47 p.m., he'd park his beat-up Honda in the exact same spot, way back in the employee lot, corner space under the broken streetlight. Then this new guy started working days. Let's call him Brandon. 22, drove this obnoxious lifted truck with truck nuts hanging from the back. Real classy. First week, Brandon parked normal. Second week, he discovered Frank's corner spot and decided it was perfect for his massive truck. Problem was, Brandon parked like an absolute moron. His truck was so wide he'd take up 2 spots, always crooked, always blocking Frank's driver door. Frank would have to climb through his passenger seat just to get out. Frank being Frank, he left a polite note, handwritten on lined paper. "Hi there, could you please park within the lines? Thanks, Frank, from night shift." Next night, the note was crumpled on the ground next to a fresh oil stain. Brandon had parked even worse, basically sideways across 3 spots. Frank tried again. Different note. "Hey, I park here every night for work. Would really appreciate if you could be more careful. Thanks." This time, Brandon wrote back on the same paper. "First come, first served, old man. Maybe walk more." For 3 weeks, this went on. Every night, Frank would squeeze out his passenger door while Brandon's truck sat there like some kind of monument to being a jerk. Other employees started noticing. Janet from customer service called Brandon that parking lot psychopath. Even the manager mentioned it, but Brandon just shrugged and said he got there first. That's when Frank hatched his plan. On his day off, Frank showed up around 2 a.m. with a small toolbox. He pulled out this tiny tube of industrial adhesive, the clear, super strong stuff they use to fix shopping cart wheels, the kind that bonds permanently in about 30 seconds. Frank walked over to Brandon's truck and carefully applied tiny dots of glue under both door handles. Not enough to see, just enough to stick. Then he left one final note under the windshield wiper, written on the back of an old air freshener. "Parking matters. Think small." The next morning, Brandon came in for his shift, looking absolutely furious. His right hand was wrapped in gauze and he was shaking his left hand like it hurt. Turns out when he grabbed his door handle that morning, his fingers got completely stuck. The glue had dried overnight and bonded his skin to the metal. He had to call his roommate to bring pliers. When that didn't work, they called 911. The paramedics had to use some kind of medical solvent to free his hand. Then he spent 4 hours in the ER getting the remaining glue removed from his fingertips. Brandon stormed into the break room yelling about vandalism and lawsuits. The manager pulled security footage and found weeks of Brandon parking like a complete tool, plus Frank's polite notes getting thrown on the ground. When they asked Frank about the glue, he just sat there eating his bologna sandwich and said, "Huh, that's weird. Maybe someone finally got tired of being stepped on." HR made Brandon attend a parking etiquette seminar. He quit 2 days later. Frank still parks in his corner spot every night. Now he leaves little origami cranes on other people's windshields when they park nicely. Another full story on channel, link below.